It's time for the Josh Kirby on Sports Podcast.
All right, pleased to be joined on the Kirby on Sports YouTube page by Matthew Paris of the Washington Times. Matt, thanks so much for being with us, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, always. So, Washington football, unfortunately, their season, it was a very rough season. It ended with a 31-23 loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the wild card round of the playoffs. But I mean, as a fan myself, after that game, I was like, there's a sense of hope here. It's not like past wild card exits where it was like, oh, this team just didn't have it and there's nothing to look forward to. I feel like there was a sense of opportunity, being the fact there's a lot of hope and a lot of promise for this team under Ron Rivera, stemming back from the beginning of this regular season with even beforehand, the name change, the front office drama, Ron Rivera getting cancer. I mean, all this stuff. In the culmination of that, they were able to go 7-9, make it to the wild card. Obviously, the NFC East wasn't the best, but still, with Ron Rivera in that staff, they seem to change the culture there. So, tell me about what you saw.
Yeah, obviously I don't approach this from a fan perspective, but I think it's unquestionably really impressive with what Rivera has been able to implement in year one, just where he took over from. They were obviously a 3-13 team in the year before, and no one really expected them to make the playoffs. And I think the reason why Washington fans can be really encouraged coming off of that playoff game is not only did Taylor Heinicke play well when no one expected him to, but they just have so many foundational pieces going forward. Chase Young, Terry McLaurin, Montez Sweat, Cameron Curl, a seventh-round pick who was a nice find. It's just a lot of young talent that they can build on, and I think that's kind of what makes this offseason so interesting is because coming up now, they have actual cap room to surround them with additional talent, and I think they can make a pretty big jump if things kind of break their way.
Yeah, so I mean, looking at next year, it's more like they need to find some more bulk. If I would ask you if that is a correct insight there, but with Dallas getting Dak Prescott back, probably New York getting Saquon, Washington probably won't be favored in this division. But what do you think needs to happen in the offseason for Washington to have a chance to win the division once again?
Well, I think you just really need it starts with the quarterback. I know that's the obvious answer, but you look at where they were this past season, that 1-5 start, a lot of it was because the quarterback play just wasn't up to standard. Dwayne Haskins obviously got benched when Kyle Allen took over. It was a pretty rough transition at the beginning with the Rams game and going against their defense, which is really good, and it was terrible conditions, but it just didn't click right away. And it started to click with Alex Smith, but there are some concerns in the long term of, can he really do it at age 37? Does he even want to play? We don't have those questions just yet. But him going, we saw what the Scott Turner offense can be like when you have a decisive quarterback making quick throws, kind of spreading the ball around. And they just need someone like that. They don't necessarily need an elite level quarterback. Obviously, you want that all the time. But if they can just get average to above average, somewhat who is better than Alex Smith was, then I think things, it'll be a really high ceiling for Washington going forward here.
So Taylor Heinicke, his great performance, he was on an interview after the game with NBC Sports Washington. He stated that he wanted to come back to the team in 2021. Do you think he could potentially be the future?
I think it's a really nice story. I think I was really impressive with what he did. I need to see more. I mean, I'm concerned about his size. If you look at his time in Carolina, his one start, he got hurt. He got banged up in this playoff game as well, diving for the pylon with the shoulder. I just don't know if he's a big enough quarterback to kind of withstand hits at the NFL level. But there's no question he was really impressive with what he was able to do, the sparks he provided with his legs. I think he's a great insurance option if for a backup, similar to what Kyle Allen is. They just need a fully entrenched starter. But, Taylor Heinicke is a restricted free agent, so it is really easy to bring him back if they want.
So, in your opinion, for a franchise quarterback moving forward for the Washington football team, do you believe they will go pick somebody in the draft, or can they find somebody free agency or try to make a trade within the league?
Yeah, who knows what they want to do. I mean, I think if Alex Smith wants to play, then maybe drafting someone makes a little bit more sense. You have Smith be that stopgap. But if Smith is done and his contract would still be really high if he wants to play, you could save so much money by releasing him. But if they don't think Smith is a realistic option, then I like the trade market. I mean, there's some really interesting names. It obviously depends what Atlanta wants to do with Matt Ryan, Detroit with Matt Stafford. But, even a guy like Teddy Bridgewater in Carolina, I don't know necessarily if they're sold on him right away. And so if they can just get someone like that, I think they would be in really great position with this defense.
And obviously, shifting our focus to the defensive side of the football, you have Chase Young, Montez Sweat, Deron Payne, just to name a few. Washington's defense has looked as well as it has in a long time, in my opinion. So what do you think they need to do to make that defense even more of a better defense that teams will have to fear come 2021?
Yeah, there's some great building blocks on it right now, but I think there are a couple positions you can really look to. I think cornerback is, if they can get just a little bit more consistency from that position. I was really impressed with what Kendall Fuller and Ronald Darby were able to do. But remember, Ronald Darby will be a free agent this upcoming off season. They never really seemed to settle on who they want their slot cornerback to be. It was Jimmy Moreland in some matchups, Fabian Moreau near the end of the year once it was bigger, and even Cam Curl before he was switched to safety full time. They used him kind of as that big nickel safety hybrid cornerback sort of thing. So I think those two spots, if they maybe bring someone in on the outside, maybe they could shift Kendall Fuller to nickel. I mean, that's another option. But, I think it starts there, and then their linebackers as well, because we heard all year about how Ron Rivera wanted them to play fast, but wanted to play with that pop. Now, John Bostic is really fast, and so is Cole Holcomb. They have great speed, but just those fierce instincts that you want. I think you have that in Holcomb. Bostic, I think he is what he is. He's just an average middle linebacker, but he's a really good average middle linebacker. But, it's the ceiling is only so high with a guy like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to talk about Ryan Kerrigan here briefly. He spent some time after the game just taking in the moments on FedEx Field. Could this be his last time in a Washington uniform?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would be shocked if he returned, to be honest. I mean,
yeah. So, I mean, he's been with the team for a while. So, one guy, do you see any sort of replacement for Ryan Kerrigan?
Well, it just depends how their pass rushing depth behind them kind of pans out. They drafted James Smith-Williams last year. He played a little bit of defensive end. They like to rotate their spots. They'll get a guy like Matt Ioannidis back from injury, which will be really important for them. So even if they don't have necessarily that edge rusher to replace Ryan Kerrigan, that natural one to rotate in between Sweat and Chase Young, they could get more push from the interior. But yeah, that is a position that I could see them addressing later in the draft, drafting another edge rusher.
Absolutely. Do you see any other positions? Now I know it's still early, but do you see any other positions in the draft they might look out for?
Yeah, left tackle is going to be an interesting one. Cornelius Lucas was fine. He was a pleasant surprise given how, to be blunt, how awful he looked in training camp. He really came on nicely at the end of the year once Jerron Christian went down with an injury. But you have Sadiq Charles kind of waiting in the wing, but we saw Sadiq Charles at guard when he actually did get a chance to play. So if they can get left tackle, I think that's another one. What happens with Brandon Sheriff at right guard is going to be really interesting. If he leaves in free agency for another team, then yeah, right guard is going to be a massive hole. So you're going to have to draft someone most likely to replace that. So, I would say guard, tackle, depth along the offensive line.
Absolutely, great insight there. So I'm hearing stuff that Washington is looking for to interview somebody for a front office position. Is there anything you can tell us about that search so far, or anything?
Yeah, they've requested to interview 2 candidates so far. Martin Mayhew, who is with the San Francisco 49ers. Fans will know him best as the longtime Detroit Lions general manager. He took over from Matt Millen in 2008, the season they went 0-16, and he stuck it out all the way to 2015. And you look at those Lions teams, they made the playoffs only twice in that run. I think it was about 7 years, 8. But, he surrounded them with some nice talent. Obviously, they drafted Matt Stafford, number 1 overall there. They surrounded them with really nice receivers. It depends how it shakes out. And then the other guy is Ryan Cowden. He's currently with the Tennessee Titans, but he has those Ron Rivera ties because he was a former Panther scout. He's a younger guy who's on the rise. He's John Robinson's right-hand man. And so I think that's another option. But the search is really just starting to take shape because there are guys like Marty Herney out there, another Carolina guy. I can't remember his name right now, but the assistant general manager in Buffalo has Carolina ties as well. He's thought to be kind of a natural fit with Rivera. So it looks like they're going to bring in someone outside. We can talk about Kyle Smith if you want, but it looks like they're going to bring someone in from the outside.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. How does this affect Kyle Smith or anything like that?
Yeah, it's interesting because what we heard from the draft, how they talked about each other in the draft, Ron Rivera was really high on Kyle Smith. He loved the way that the draft kind of folded out. And for whatever reason, when we've asked about Kyle Smith throughout the season, the praise has become a lot more lukewarm. And Ron Rivera isn't the type of coach to deflect praise or credit. You look at his signing like Logan Thomas. He identified the tight ends coach Pete Hainer as someone who really identified him in free agency, saying, "Hey, we should take a chance on this guy because he's really undervalued and he could thrive in a bigger role." He just really hasn't done that with Kyle Smith in a while, and so maybe they just don't think he's ready to be that full general manager role because whoever they bring in, it looks like Ron Rivera is still going to have the final say. So I think it's just more about having voices in the room, having as many opinions as possible, someone that Ron Rivera can trust and go back and forth with. And so, I think that's kind of why they're going to go the outside approach rather than Kyle Smith. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Like, does Kyle Smith want to stay if he doesn't get this general manager position, or will he look elsewhere for other opportunities?
So in your mind, who do you think would be the best candidate in your mind?
Sorry about that.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. It's just, it'll just be kind of who, Martin Mayhew, maybe he has experience.
I heard Mayhew was a former Washington player as well.
Yeah. He was with their Super Bowl team in 1991.
So yeah. I heard that Dan Snyder likes hiring former Washington players. As you know, Doug Williams is in the front office. So going in years forward, I know we just ended this season, but do you think Ron Rivera is the right choice to lead this franchise to a potential Super Bowl?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, just look at his track record. He got there in Carolina. Obviously, they didn't win it, but this is a guy who knows kind of what it takes, and every move that he's made so far has been mostly the right move. And what I think is kind of refreshing is just his ability to admit to when he made mistakes. I don't know if you caught what he said on 106.7 this week, but he said he mishandled the quarterback situation early on in camp. That
I heard that.
Up to him, he would have had a competition, and I just think that's it's a really startling admission per se because of how obviously everything worked with Dwayne Haskins and how everything unfolded there, but also we heard before camp started that he wanted to have an actual competition, and they just didn't. But, I just think it's his honesty sits well, not only for, schmucks like us, and that doesn't really matter, but more importantly with the players. I think they really appreciate his honesty, and he's a straight shooter with them.
Yeah, absolutely. I could not see anybody better than Rivera to lead this team. And I'm sure you've seen the culture change from last season to this season.
Yeah. It's really kind of startling of just how, when they were 1-5 last season, they finished 3-13. They were 1-5 this season, finished 7-9. It just, when things snowballed, when things started to go wrong under Gruden, who I actually have a pretty high opinion on, but when they started to go bad under Gruden, they would really spiral out of control. And with this, they just didn't. Now, obviously, with the NFC East having that to play for every week, that kind of adds to it. But you look at 2018 when things started to snowball with Alex Smith's injury, then Colt McCoy gets hurt. Things just went downhill from there, but the division was still up for grabs. They could have won it in 2018. So I just think it's sort of differences there.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of questions for Washington, but a lot to look forward to after that loss to Tampa Bay. I mean, it just seemed like it wasn't a game to be disappointed over, and just a lot to look forward to. Matthew, I ask every person who comes on this podcast this question. Your thoughts on Alex Smith's remarkable comeback into the National Football League?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great word for it. It truly was remarkable. And I think the most surprising thing to me is not that he just played football, but that he did it at such a high level. You look at that stretch of games from Detroit to obviously beating Pittsburgh all the way up to when he suffered that calf injury near the end there. He was playing at a really high level, much better than he'd ever did in 2018 in his first year under Jay Gruden. It was just really impressive just how well he knew this system. He was going to his reads. He was getting the most out of everyone. I was really impressed with the year that Alex Smith had, and I don't know how you couldn't be impressed after seeing something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if he doesn't get comeback player of the year, I don't know what the league's doing, in my opinion. I think the award needs to be called the Alex Smith comeback player of the year award.
Yeah. I think that has a better chance of it happening than anyone else ever, winning the award this year.
Yeah, absolutely. But Matthew, we appreciate the time. Really appreciate you coming on the Kirby on Sports podcast to talk about Washington's off season. I'm sure your schedule will still be pretty busy in the weeks to come, as maybe they're going to hire somebody in the front office and so on and so forth. So keep on doing what you do best, sir. And I hope you stay safe and everything during these challenging times.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. It was a blast.
Absolutely. Once again, that's Matthew Paris of the Washington Times. Thank you so much.